Remember back, let's take you back to 2020. Not many of us want to go back to 2020, but that's when we really figured out how we're going to do this. How are we still going to work and have this pandemic going on? Well, that's when remote working kind of became a part of the vernacular during the pandemic, and an increasingly distant memory, certainly 6 years later. But remote work is still far from over. Some more of a hybrid. Some are still just working remotely. Recent data from the Minneapolis Fed shows the percentage of remote work has remained steady over the past couple of years. Joining us with more, someone who's looked into all this, is Haley Chinander, and she's regional analyst from the Fed to tell us what she has found. Haley, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on today, Tom. Before I kind of dive in more about what the analysis found, I just have to say that any views that I expressed during our chat today are mine and not those of the Minneapolis Fed or Federal Reserve System.
You bet. Let's talk about this. Your data shows the percentage of remote workers has stayed largely pretty steady at around 22%, correct?
That's correct. Over the last 2 years, when we look at the share of the workers in the economy that are spending at least part of the time at home, it's around 22% across the nation. In Minnesota, however, we do have a higher rate of remote work happening. That has been hovering around 24 to 25% over the last 2 years, but the story is still the same. The rate of remote work has remained pretty steady, even though we are seeing all of these return to office headlines in the news.
Right. And why do you think that number, especially here, has held steady, that number?
I think part of the reason is that in Minnesota, we do have a lot of headquarters here. We have an unusual amount of Fortune 500 companies in the state, and with that comes a lot of managerial and administrative jobs that are easily able to be done from home. We also have a very strong healthcare sector here, and when you might think of healthcare, you think of that as in-person care, but there's a lot of telework happening, medical coding, transcription, all of that can be done from home too. So I think we just have a very good industry and occupational makeup here in the state that is conducive to remote work.
And you mentioned the return to office mandates. Certainly we saw that. We reported on that over the past couple of years, especially affecting a number of workers. Did that affect the percentage of remote workers, and did you factor in hybrid, people who might have a couple of days at home and 3 days maybe at work during the work week?
Yeah, I did actually. My measure of remote work includes those hybrid and fully remote workers. When looking at fully remote work in the state, we have seen a little bit of a decline in the last year of the share of remote workers. It's very small. It's only 1 to 2 percentage points. Meanwhile, hybrid is around that 14% mark. So we have seen a little bit of a decline there. However, there is also the fact that even though we do see a lot of, everyone has to come back 5 days a week type announcements. Anecdotally, I have heard that a lot of companies are still allowing flexibility for their workers, even if they are in the office 5 days. So think of a parent that is spending their morning working from home before they drop their kid off and then head into the office. Or, a person that leaves for a doctor's appointment and then finishes their day working from home. So even though there are these announcements that people have to be in 5 days a week, it doesn't mean that their entire day is spent at the office as well.
Right. I mean, there aren't a lot of great takeaways from COVID and the pandemic when we had it, but this is probably one of the good things for some families especially. And what do you think, Haley, this says about the future of working remotely? Do you think it's here to stay, and do you think the numbers could remain steady for a while?
I think when we look at over the last 2 years, things have remained pretty steady, but remote work is one of those things that could be tied to just the general labor market. It's a benefit that companies may offer their employees to incentivize them to stay or to attract new talent. And if we have a change where maybe there are more workers available than jobs and the power kind of goes back to the employer, then maybe they won't be as incentivized to offer that. So it's one of those things we'll continue to monitor and track over time. It's not set in stone, and we'll just see how it continues to evolve.
I'm just curious, when you looked at all of this, did you look at any data pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, to see what remote work was like before and after?
Definitely. So there are a variety of different census products and surveys out there that have tried to measure this over time. And the particular data I used for this analysis did not go back that far, but the Census American Community Survey found that there was about a 6% fully remote work rate happening in 2019, and that shot up to around 21% in 2021, 2022, and kind of steadily gone down then. But all of these different surveys have different ways of measuring remote work, so it's hard to compare between the two, but they all kind of tell the same story, that remote work remains elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels, and that it hasn't changed very much.
Right. And let's face it, there are probably a number of people watching us right now who are working remotely. I would bet on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for the information. It was all very interesting. And did you have fun kind of looking at all of it too? I mean, it's so germane to our lives now.
No, it's super interesting to start digging into the data. I also work remote every once in a while,
sure.
and it's fun to see how things kind of compare to my day to day and the people around me and what it shows in the data.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for taking time out. We appreciate it, Haley, and all the best to you. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure.